we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Welcome aboard to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Of course, brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda. Hope you're having a wonderful day. We've hit the midway point on this Wednesday. Kevin Brockway is joining us today. He wasn't here yesterday, traveling back from Florida on their vacation from where he started and was getting made fun of by Dane Fife, I remember. That was great.
Actually, I was coming back from Colorado. I was in Colorado. I was in Florida.
That's right. This trip, yeah.
Florida,
Mr.
I
World
came
Traveler.
back for a day.
I'm sorry, Mr. World Traveler.
And then I came back from Colorado. And the reason why
I must have been back here working.
The reason why I'm wearing my Mets cap is because I got to see him play the Rockies over the weekend and split that doubleheader. So DeGrom strike out 14, and the Metsies are in first place, 7-5, albeit cold, chilly night loss last night at Wrigley Field. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, the Reds are in first place too, but their game was postponed, or they're in the midst of a weather delay currently from yesterday. They picked back up today. I forget what time, but it was 3-1 was the last I looked at the score of that game. They were losing
4-4. I saw it was an extra innings. Yeah.
Oh, really? Dang! Hell yes. So go for that. Good job. Plenty to get to today. Of course, Bob Kravitz will be joining us. We'll talk to Kyle Neddenriep as the All-Star team was announced. And I saw that, I think it was Mike Broughton, who said it was probably the deepest class in over 20 years. But we knew that. We've known that this class coming was going to be a deep one. Ironically, not a single player on the All-Star team this year headed to Indiana. How often does that happen? That's a head scratcher, but there's been a lot previously heading into that. And I think a big part of that, COVID, you've got the needs. They only had 2 scholarship spots. The recruiting has changed. Although they did land one of their 2 of their 3 recruits they're bringing in are freshmen. So it's not like they're abandoning the normal style, but this COVID rule allows it's going to affect, and the portal at the same time, and the transfer rule all at the same time. Man, these high school seniors are so screwed because they're going to be the last, unless you're a superstar, you're going to be the last looked at. They're going to look at every possibility before you going through that transfer portal before they even get to you now. And getting to you takes scouting. It takes analysis. Wow. How much time are they going to take away from doing that because they're spending more time on the portal now?
Yeah, and I think too, a transfer is a proven commodity, right? At high school, there's a lot more risk with regards to that and not having that evaluation time over the summer. But I'll tell you what else impacted recruiting, Indiana's ability to recruit the state this year. And you and I both know it because it bore out. It was Archie Miller's job security. I mean, come on. Let's face it. I mean, I think you could have stopped a few words sooner and just used the first 2 words of that sentence. Exactly. But, I'm sure there was a lot of negative recruiting done to some of these prospects. How much longer is he and the staff going to be there? I'm sure that was used throughout. And I think that was the reason why a lot of guys made the decisions they did. Trey Kaufman, Caleb First, et al., et cetera. Just the uncertainty surrounding the program and it bore itself out. But they've moved on. Mike Woodson has all 13 scholarship slots filled through transfers and through high school players. And you pick up a kid in Tamar Bates who comes here because the coach that he expected to play for at Texas, Shaka Smart, leaves. So everything works out, but it's interesting that inside out.
Wait a minute, go back. Now, it wasn't just that Shaka Smart left. Chris Beard came in, and we had this conversation yesterday. He wants to play for an African-American coach, which That became an issue for some people. I have no idea why. It should not be. And again, we're not going to be two white guys sitting there having this discussion because neither of us have had that experience, and I'm not going to pretend to.
Sure.
Me and Charlie talked about it yesterday. He did a great job of eloquating it, and I don't get the issue. I understand completely what he's saying. He wants to play for someone that his life has been surrounded by. It's what he's used to, that he trusts. That stuff is just not an issue to me because he didn't say it in the way that very, very few people are taking it. This is a very couple of people that are getting on that, but he didn't say it that way. So I think they've got to get off of that deal.
Yeah, but I think getting back to the Indiana issue, and it's always been adding Dayton Fife on staff will certainly help in this regard, but it's not necessarily getting the Indiana guys, it's getting the right Indiana guys. And that's going to be the key going forward. It's getting Aaron Henry instead of Demetri Anderson. It's getting the guys that, making those proper evaluations. And we'll see. I mean, I think the jury is still out on a lot of the kids that Archie signed last year from the state that were Indiana All-Stars and very good players. But we're going to need to see growth from Anthony Leal. We're going to need to see growth from Trey Galloway. We're going to need to see growth from Christian Lander. Otherwise, those three guys might not be part of the future plans here at Indiana.
Jesse welcomes you back. Says, did you get on the right plane this time? Let's see. Tim says he heard Kentucky, they may allow students to come back for an extra year of classes and also have an extra year for athletes. Haha. Let's see. Forces, good morning, Force. He's on there with us as well. Yeah, hit us up on if you're not following us on YouTube, you should be. You can find us at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But yeah, Kevin, it's the time you were gone, a lot of change happened. That roster has filled out, like you said. Now they're looking forward already to the future. The offers are going out. Another offer went out yesterday. I can get to the bottom, man. There's so many. Where is it? Daggone it. Braden Smith, though, that's an interesting one. That's one we're going to talk about, too. What was the – daggone it. Where is it? I can't find it. Yesterday's latest offer that went out. Kevin, did you see that one?
Class of 2022, are you talking
about?
Yeah.
This is all for the future. They're still recruiting they're already recruiting for the future. And every staff does that, but they just got here and hit the ground. They filled that roster and now moving for the future. They've already got CJ Gunn in the fold. Noah Clowney was a recent offer. He's a 6'10" guy. He's a big dude, man, out of South Carolina. And another offer yesterday was to a big man, also out of South Carolina, I believe. So that's Kenya Hunter, I think, down in that area, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that this brings to the debate, right? Because, you're the university, and Tom Crean ran into some problems with this. You're Indiana University. Do you recruit the kids in state, or are you a national program? And you take a look at Kentucky.
You do both. You do both.
You try to do both, right? You try to balance it. But if you go too much one side, right, you get the coaches in the state of Indiana upset. That's what Tom Crean did, right?
No, that's not accurate. He was crazy. That had nothing to do. You have to bring in elite talent no matter where it is from. I don't care if it's from Timbuktu. You bring in elite talent. There is enough talent at Indiana to always have a core, a base of talent. And I'm talking as all the old players come on here, they say they consider the Indiana base recruiting Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, or Ohio. Yeah, that area right there. And that's all but then you have to bring in the elites. This is not the only place elite basketball players come from. And that's why you will look on that roster and you will see guys from other places. Bates is one of those. You bring in elite talent. You bring in the best talent you can get, period, whether it's in state or not. Sometimes that works out to just be a timing issue. If you get this guy right now, or you're not going to wait a year to get an Indiana kid if you can get a kid from Texas who's the same kid now. So sometimes it works out timing-wise, the needs I get like this year. I mentioned not having anybody on the All-Star team. Well, they only had a couple scholarships. They already had Logan Duncombe, and so there's not. It just wasn't there in the cards that way. It just worked out, but
they wanted Trey Kaufman. Come on, they didn't get him. They lost out to him to Purdue.
I forgot about that one. Absolutely. They see. There you go. They would have had one on, but guess what? And we'll look forward to talking to Kyle Neddenriep about this. Who did not win Mr. Basketball, who was probably the favorite going into winning it.
Yeah.
Trey Kaufman. And I guarantee you that's a north-south thing all day long. He's going to Indiana, he wins Mr. Basketball. I promise you. I think, in my opinion, if he was going to Indiana, he would have won Mr. Basketball. He lost it because of that, I think. He also did not have
This is the first time in 4 years, because the last 3 Indiana Mr. Basketballs, right? Romeo, Trace, and Anthony Leo all came to Indiana. So this is the first time.
And they could have easily had a fourth, which would have been unprecedented because the 3 was. But yeah, I truly believe that he lost that because he's going to Purdue. There's been columns about it. We'll talk to Kyle about it. I mean, he's not going to say that he was because we don't have any data to prove that. But it's long been thought. There's that Southern bias you talked about. I mean, you mentioned it earlier with somebody else. Todd Leary always makes fun when we joke around because when he went to Lawrence North, Britt Floyd Center, all you Hicks and all that stuff. There is a Southern bias. I'm telling you.
That Southern Indiana basketball is not as good as Northern Indiana basketball. Is that it?
Oh, absolutely. There's the bias to thinking of that. But it's because you don't have the big teams like you're going to have every year in Indianapolis that's going to draw more. So, but you always have quality. Look at Silver Creek. They won back-to-back state titles. First team in however long to win boys and girls in 3A. So I don't want to hear that crap. It's baloney. New Albany and Floyd Central, they've all had great teams. So, and great athletes.
The mighty Highlanders, right? Floyd
That's right, man. That's right. Man, they just couldn't get out of the sectional this year. It's disappointing. But, yeah, what are we? Almost close to a break. Kyle Neddenriep will be coming up next. That'll be fun to talk to him about. But, yeah, it's and the All-Star game itself. I'm looking forward to that. You know, Indiana, Kevin, you're not familiar. The Indiana-Kentucky All-Star Series, Indiana crushes Kentucky. They've got a 99-44 lead in that series. And I have to go back. I think they lost a game last year, which was inexplicable. But that was the first time in 6 years that they had not swept them.
I know. I covered that 2 years ago in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. It was a lot of fun. And Trace had a big game, if I recall. Brandon Newman played pretty well. So it was fun covering it 2 years ago, and it'll be fun covering it again this June.
I disagree with that, Sid. I don't think he would have, because when I watched Kristen play in high school, he's a great high school player, but he just was not always the man on his team all the time. He was more of a facilitator then, which is what his job is. But I don't think he would have won Mr. Basketball, but he would have certainly got some votes. But it would have gone between those two big guys, I'm pretty sure. Donald down in Go FC. I saw the name, but I didn't realize that you were out there. Oh, sorry about that. But we got to hit a break. Kevin says Trey would have been Mr. Basketball if he went to IU. Exactly what I was saying too. Hey, okay. We got to hit a break. We'll be back with Kyle Neddenriep right after this. Brought to you by Eddie Moore Honda. Back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or DeMar J. Lewis, man.
What happened?
He's in a transfer portal.
Really?
Ben says he's good for 10.
Okay, I got
DeMar J. Lewis.
Where is that fucking message? God damn it.
Is Kravitz supposed to be joining?
He wrote on Twitter.
Not till later.
He just, I know, but he just.
Hey, Bob.
How are you?
Pretty good. You want to join us early?
Whenever you want me to join you, I can go have a cup of coffee and come back.
Yeah, I thought you was going to come on at 10.
Oh, 10 o'clock? Yeah, that's fine. I'll come back at
That
10.
worked. Perfect. Thank you, sir. You're welcome to stay.
I
DeMar
guess
St. Louis.
he announced it on Twitter, I guess.
When?
Let me see. Might have been yesterday
I
because
think.
what's his
What?
name?
He said it yesterday on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I know I saw it on Twitter either at some point yesterday or maybe earlier.
You should have called him.
Excuse me.
Huh?
If I'd have known you wouldn't see it, I would have sent it to you, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's one that escaped me.
I'll just start sending you things just in case. All right, we're back in 30, by the way.
Welcome to your extraordinary destination, French Lick, West Baden, Indiana. You'll find great places to visit, to stay, to dine, and to play. We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Solersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. We've hit the midway point, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Kyle Neddenriep joins us from the Indy Star as Kevin Brockway sits in. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Hey, good. How you guys doing?
Good
morning, Kyle.
You've
Morning.
got about what? You've got still another 6 weeks before season really. No, wrong. I forgot AAU. Forget it. Never mind. You're screwed. Hey, Mr. Tiger, I met a guy the other day. He's 88. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Is that right?
He was telling a great story. He's from Washington, Indiana.
I know who you're talking about.
There you go. I figured you would. I figured you see him a lot at the gyms.
Oh, yeah.
But character, quite the character. But man, I wish I could remember those stories.
Yeah. Did you see him out at a basketball tournament?
No, actually, it was at Culver's with John Leskowski in Bloomington. He stops there to talk to him all the time. But yeah, he says drives like 40,000 miles a year watching high school basketball.
Yeah, old Joe. He's I've seen him for years out at many games and AAU games and high school games, and always fun running into him. I didn't realize he was 88 now, but yeah, he definitely gets around. He knows his stuff, knows his players. He's obviously a big Hoosier fan, big Cardinal fan, and talked to him a lot over the years.
Yeah, I had not had that pleasure, and so it was awesome meeting him. But it's amazing there are people out there like that, and he is sharp as a tack. I pray that I first of all make it to 88, but he's out driving 40,000 miles a year watching high school basketball and accurately and doing a hell of a job of scouting kids.
Yeah, I mean, he knows, he gets around, he talks to the parents, talks to, the kids here and there. And, I've sat with him at games and, he's definitely passionate. I think he just likes basketball. He just likes being out and seeing who the next guys are. And he's a positive guy and credit to him. I mean, do it as long as you can. I could see myself being that age and still trying to, if kind of like you, if I last that long, but, I couldn't imagine not being in the gym and watching games and on especially on a Friday night in the winter. I've been doing it since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. So it'd be hard not to break that habit, I think, and something I always enjoy. So good to see, guys like Joe who, kind of make basketball in this state what it is, and good for him for still getting out there.
Absolutely. And that's a career for you as soon as, if you ever stop writing, bam, that's just something that would be probably a lot better. There would be no deadlines to go out to scout kids that way. You just go out. That would be a heck of a job. But right now you do have deadlines. You got stuff to do, and watch the All-Star team has been announced. Mr. Basketball has been announced. A little bit of surprise at Mr. Basketball. I think that I feel pretty confident that had Trey Kaufman, if he was going to Indiana, probably would have won Mr. Basketball. But being from the South and he did not win it. Didn't have a great state finals game either, but surprising to see him not get that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was probably after the state finals. I felt like it was kind of a toss-up between the two. I thought Caleb played better in the state finals game than Kaufman did. Probably throughout the tournament, really played better than Kaufman. But you're kind of, I'm not sure it should come down to just that when you're looking at those two guys. I mean, both of them had great careers. We talked last week, or whenever that was, kind of leading into the vote, that we kind of agreed it was kind of a toss-up. And I think you throw Luke Brown in there as a guy who's got a completely different resume and a completely different player, and Kaufman and First are different as well, and they'll play together. And I think be able to do that as different type of players, but you're really slicing the kind of the same resume, I think, when you're looking at those two guys. And I think people who watched and waited to vote until after the state finals probably First probably won that vote. If you're up in the air up to that point, I think you're probably more likely to vote for Caleb First. And it's hard to argue. I didn't really hear, at least on my social media, many people arguing against Caleb winning the award. So, I know there was some, I'm sure, Trey was disappointed, but, I think everybody knows going into that vote, it's not a done deal by any means. So, I was slightly surprised. I mean, based on kind of where we were at the beginning of the year, I thought Kaufman was probably a slight favorite ahead of Caleb First and Brown. I kind of had those three in my top three going into the year. You had some other guys play their way into the mix. Definitely Brooks Barnheiser, he got fourth in the vote and played his way into the mix somewhat. But I think it was those three for the most part. And Caleb First certainly deserving based on team success and all the individual accolades he had, over the years. So, maybe a bit of a surprise, but at the time of the state finals, the day after and the couple of days after that, I kind of thought it could go in his favor at that point.
Then you had the All-Star team that was announced, and as Mike Broughton, I think, said, that probably deepest class in 20 years. We knew this. We've been talking about this class for 2 years, it seems like, leading up to it. And it is a deep class. But is there truly a superstar in this class? I don't know that there's truly a superstar in this class.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not a superstar as far as like a one and done or that type of a top 10 type of a player. I think that's true. Yet to be seen, I guess. There's times where I thought Trey Kaufman looked like he could be that, but he's just not the explosive athlete, that you see with some of those guys. So, and that's always kind of been the thought on him. But, I would say, from a standpoint of the depth of this class, it's probably almost as good as 2012. And I think it'd be fun. I might go back and look at that class, the 2012 class again. And it had, I think, I have to go, I don't want to give you a number because I don't remember exactly, but it had more Division I players than this class did. But I think this one ranks up there with that class as far as the depth, probably number two in the time I've been doing this since, for the last, how many years. So, from that standpoint, I think you're going to end up with a lot of guys who have really good college careers. For instance, Kamari Peterson from Gary Westside, who's going to Indiana State, I think is going to have, a really good college career. And I would argue I had him on my list of Indiana All-Stars when I submitted my top 10, because I think he's that good. They made the semi-state. He missed a shot that could have put him in the state finals, and nothing against him, but they're that close to playing for a state title and beating Carmel. So, they were right there, and I thought he was a big reason why. He didn't have huge stats, but playing on a really balanced team, I thought he's legit. I think he'll end up with a better college career than some of the players who did make it. We knew that going into it. And they ended up taking 14 rather than 13. You still could go down the list and put together a whole 10 or 12, which I kind of went through that yesterday and wrote an article about it. But I think there's definitely at least 6 to 10 guys who had a resume that would put you on most years. Chris Mantis, who's going to Appalachian State, I could see him being a guy in the NCAA tournament, down the road, who's lighting it up, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember Chris Mantis, and he's scoring 28 points in an NCAA tournament game. But I think there's guys like that. Peterson, Mantis, Colson Montgomery from Southridge is a phenomenal player and an athlete, and he'll go on and probably play Major League Baseball someday. And, he could have been definitely on that list. And Southridge fans will tell you he should have been on that list, and they might be right. So there's just a lot of there's probably 6 to 10 guys like that who in most years I think have a pretty good shot of making that team. But because of the overall depth, it just made it really hard. And Kurt Hopp from Bar Reeve, what else can you do? He had a great year. But it just got edged out. There's so many 6'9" guys on this team. Blake Sisley made the team, and Kurt didn't. So just a tough year overall. And we all knew it going into the selection process, but it really plays out when you see the list of guys who didn't make it, and you're like, man, what happened? How did he not make it? But then if you put one on, you got to take one off. That's the thing I always try to tell people. It's like, there people say snubs and politics and all this stuff. It's like, well, if you're going to put one on, you got who you taking off, and that's what always makes it difficult.
Yeah, and me and Kevin were talking earlier about, and we've been talking about this just throughout every day, the portal recruiting now, and this class of kids coming out. We've been talking about how this class is so great, and they seem to be not as effective. They all seem to have places to go. But this is going to the portal. I've already talked to so many coaches that are saying, hey, we're recruiting the portal. Indiana just had a mix where they brought in a couple of freshmen and a guy from the portal. They've got a couple of freshmen committed for next season now. So they're still recruiting, but those mid-majors, they're recruiting the portal.
Oh yeah.
I guess I should have finished. What effect do you think that it's going to happen on these kids here in Indiana? Have you seen any effect of that yet?
Yeah, there's been some effect already, and I've talked to coaches too. One I know really well at a Ben Bajer, who I go back to a long time with, and I was asking him, I was like, what do you, we were just talking the other day, like, how does this change what you're doing? And he said the same. He said, we recruit the portal first, and we recruit the high school kids second. And that's, I don't know if it's unfortunate's the right word, but it's just kind of the reality right now. Why wouldn't you recruit guys who are already established at the college level, or so it makes sense why they're doing what they're doing. The fallout from that is that, and we've seen, I think, guys I talk to and just understand where their recruitment's at. And sometimes there's other factors too, like grades or, maybe the unknown of, their offer situation or whatever. But, anecdotally, and there's enough of that to go around that you hear, man, my recruitment slowed down quite a bit. Once the pandemic started, changed things. You get extra year eligibility, the transfer situation changed. It's just a multitude of things that are going to have a domino effect. And even, you saw some of the 2022 kids commit early. They, back when times were normal, they had these offers, and they jumped on them, probably before maybe they thought they could go away, or maybe they're not going to get any other offers that are better. So they went ahead and jumped on those commitments and locked them in as much as you can lock them in with a verbal commit. So we saw that as well in a couple of cases. So, it'll I don't know what the long term, 5-10 years from now, what it looks like exactly. Coaches are still going to recruit high school players. I mean, you're still going to have, who's not going to recruit Caleb Firth and Trey Kaufman. You're still going to have, college coaches who, want to establish, a footprint with the high school players. But, the portal's definitely changed things. And you see the overall numbers of kids in the portal and really good players. They're going to go in the portal and just maybe see what happens. And then maybe they go back to their own school or their previous school, that is, or maybe they find out something better. And it's kind of a speed dating type of thing, I guess. But it's definitely changed things in recruiting. And, like I said, I don't know the long-term, what it looks like long-term, but it's definitely for these couple of classes, it's definitely, maybe limited some of their opportunities or made them just have to hold on a little bit longer to see what's out there for them.
Hey, Kyle, I had a chance to watch Luke Brown last year up in Blackford. Guy that's always been intriguing to me. Obviously, the town rallied around him, and he was challenging the scoring record for a while. How close did he come to the scoring record? How was his senior year, and how do you see him translating at the next level as he moves on to Stetson?
Yeah, I think I had a chance to see him play quite a bit. I saw him twice, I guess, this year. And, Luke is, when I first saw him play, I was kind of expecting, and this would have been his freshman year. I didn't know what to expect. I knew he was a shooter. I thought he was maybe, all right, he just stands there and shoots threes and that's all he does. But he's very creative as an offensive player. And as he's gotten stronger and more physical, you can kind of see what he can be at the next level. I think probably his overall athleticism maybe and maybe some defensive things kept him from, maybe being a high major player. But I still wonder too, like, what happens last summer if he's able to have a full summer of playing in front of college coaches. And I bet his recruitment would have looked different too, if that happens. But, he was close. He was, I think, off top, I think he was 3,019, which put him like 123 or so from the record. And if you go back and look, I mean, he missed a few games his freshman year with an injury. The tournament was shut down, where he would have had a chance to play in the regional last year and maybe they would have probably been favored to win 2 more games. So he's basically within 4 games of breaking the record, probably 5 to be fair. But, if he gets some of those extra games as a freshman and then, they make that tournament run last year, he would have been right there. I mean, he could have left as the all-time leading scorer. So that shows you, how hard it is, first of all, to break the record, and also how much he was a really dominant player, for Blackford. And I know people, though there's some, if you read some things and it's like people really kind of turn against him a little bit. And I know he feels that from talking to him sometimes. And you can feel like you're, on social media, man. It's just it's a crazy place to be sometimes. But for a high school kid, I think he's you either kind of love him or hate him, I guess. And it doesn't make sense to me. But I think probably a lot of the people writing about him, and at some point, I think people kind of get tired of hearing about him, maybe, and that's what turns them against him, which is unfortunate. We saw that with Romeo somewhat too. But I thought he handled everything really well. I think he's a better player than, even with all of his accolades and everything. I think he's actually better than people realize he is. What that means at the college level, I think he'll be more of like a facilitator who can then score. I think he'll be a creative offensive player. He just, when you watch him play, you're like, man, he just knows how to play. He makes the right plays. He's not out there just gunning, 38 shots a game, but he's very efficient. He's like 45% from the 3-point line, which for a team that really needs him to score a ton, I thought was, super impressive. I mean, he fills it up, but he doesn't do it on, 9 for 28 shooting. He's always, over 50% and, makes a ton of assists. And, I couldn't say any more good things about him. I think he's definitely lived up to the billing, and I think he'll go on and I think he picked the right, I don't know about Stetson in particular, but I think he'll really thrive at that level. I think he's he's going to a place where he can really make an impact. And I know people say, well, why didn't IU but I think he's going to a school where he can make a immediate impact and maybe a long term. And then, who knows, like we talked about the transfer portal, maybe he's going somewhere else in a year. It's hard to forecast that, but I look forward to seeing what he does.
I was just going to mention the portal now is also, though, a feeder system or a development place you can go to hone your skills and still hope to get seen by someone. These kids are always going to be like him, exactly like him, who would probably like to be, of course, he'd like to be playing at a higher level. Go there and get you some stats. I promise you, if he's got stats, coaches will seek him out if that goes that way. So yeah, you're right. I agree with you. That's what I was already thinking. I can see him possibly really going in and working hard and moving up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, his recruitment process could continue while he's at Stetson. That's kind of probably the reality for anybody. It's just I know part of me is like, I don't like that, but I guess you have to adjust, and it's just kind of a new world from that aspect. I know it's really hard though when you're trying to build a team, to approach it that way, and I could go on about that, but it seems like it'd be really hard to go kind of year to year that way and just not know what your team's going to look like.
Yes, sir. What else is coming up for you next, Kyle?
I was actually writing on Omar Cooper today. He's out with a knee injury right now. Lawrence North receiver. He's planning some official visits. Really good. I covered a lot of Lawrence North games this year. He kind of became like a quasi assistant coach for them, sitting next to Jack Kiefer. And, he was a big part of that basketball team last year and then had to sit out this year with the knee injury. But I was writing on him today, so should have something up here within a few hours, just kind of updating on what he's doing and looking forward to seeing him getting back to playing football and basketball again.
Sounds good, brother. We appreciate you. Look forward to it, and look forward to getting out and seeing some of these games. You're going to Fort Wayne, I guess, this weekend.
I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. There's an EYBL event coming down this way, so I might try to check some of that out.
Sounds good, buddy. Have a good weekend regardless. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Hey, we got more coming up. We'll be back with it right after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda.
Welcome to your
Oh, what's Kevin? All right, so
It's snowing again.
the
Unbelievable.
Marge Louis.
Yeah, man. That's
The Super League fell apart.
I saw that. Yeah.
We were talking about that yesterday with of course, he put the kibosh on it.
The Premier League and the Super League and the
Bob Kravitz. I love that when people come on early.
Is that an example of the NCAA, like the Power Five? Would they ever break away from the NCAA? And
Exactly what I talked about.
yeah, should they break away from the NCAA?
Why would it be better? They can make the NCAA better if they wanted to. Why do they need to break away? They fucking control the NCAA. They vote this dumbasses. Vote them out.
I think they're tired of the amateur rules. They're tired of being like shamed when people cheat and stuff like
Then
that.
guess what? Then
What?
you tell them to change the effing rules. They're
trying to, but Emmert's being stubborn. They're very
I mean, Emmert works for them.
I know.
In
Well,
essence.
no, I mean, some of the schools are being stubborn.
Some of the schools, not Emmert. Some of the schools.
Some of the schools
Yeah,
are being
that's-
stubborn. Yeah.
Well, like who?
Well, I mean, there's some schools that do it the right way, and that there's some that don't. Or some that
Right.
pretend to do it the right way and that don't.
Exactly. Well, how's that going to change? What's that going to change with?
Yeah. They want to do and the problem is they want to do NIL a certain way, the schools do, but the legislators are like, no, it should be free reign. It should be free market. That's the big issue right now. And it's going to create a big mess.
That's because it's going to create, because it has to be free reign or nothing. The schools want to control it. I understand. Somebody needs to control it. Well, it needs to be regulated. But are you going to put the fox in charge of the hen house?
Well, here's the problem. If it's free reign, then, you're going to have competitive balance issues.
This is a great discussion that we should be having on the air.
Coming back in 20 seconds. So hold it there.
Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. Kevin Brockway sitting in right now. Bob Kravitz will join in a little bit. What were we just talking about, Kevin? The national name, image, likeness, the Super League. Talked about that yesterday with Mike DeCourcy. Well, today that thing is just already fallen apart. Fell apart because of all the stuff we talked about. But Kevin brought up, is that kind of like the breaking away from the NCAA? And yes, we talked about that yesterday. These college football programs and but I'm like, well, they control the NCAA ultimately. I mean, Mark Emmert ultimately works for these schools. Without the schools, there is no NCAA. So I don't understand how there could be any problems there. It's like, this is how it needs to be done, and this is what you're going to do, or that's it.
Well, Mark Emmert also works for the small schools, though, too, the non-Power 5. You have the whole umbrella there.
I think Mark Emmert works for himself.
That's the issue with the NCAA. You're not just talking about the Power 5 schools. You're talking about all the schools, and they're worried about competitive balance. That's what they're worried about. With
Mark Emmert doesn't want to see those. Mark Emmert doesn't want to see them leave. That's a big part of his power and his money. How in the world that guy has stayed in power is beyond me.
Yeah.
It is. I equate him to some third world country. He's some third world country leader that has stayed in power and just unbelievably.
We have to take a look at the issue is, and this is why the Power 5 breaking away is because he answers to all 353 schools in basketball. He just doesn't answer the Power 5. And I think that's this huge issue with NIL right now.
But
and
guess
the problem
what?
is a lot of the states are passing laws where they just want it to be the free market, and schools want to regulate it. But,
Kevin, who's paying the bill for those other 200 schools? Those 200 schools are not paying the bill in the NCAA.
Yeah, they benefit. I mean, there's already competitive balance issues.
Exactly. They benefit.
There are already inherent competitive balance issues with regards to, the smaller schools, and there's a system. And I mean, we even discussed that in the last segment with Luke Brown. 2 years from now playing at Stetson, he'll be looking to move up probably if he does well. And that's just kind of the way it has been. But they figured that this is going to be an even tougher blow for the little guy, for the Loyola Chicagos of the world, or so forth. But
guess what? I got some bad news for people that think that. Welcome to a little thing called life. That's real life, man. That's real world. You go out into the real, You go out into the real world. Hey, that's the job market. That's real life. That's when, well, you know what? College is the time you're supposed to learn about real life. And there is an introduction to it. And that's just how it is. That's how it's going to be the rest of your life.
We see different leagues here. Now, Major League Baseball, obviously, they have luxury tax. They don't have a salary cap. But the NBA and the NFL, they have a salary cap. That's basically a socialist system. With sports, it can be a little different sometimes. You're talking about the competitive balance in terms of teams, playing an organized sport. You want the games to be as competitive as possible because it's good for your product.
Van says, I have no idea if Luke Brown could have played at IU and been really good, but he is an exciting player, and we'll keep tabs on his career. I think a lot of people are going to be like that. I didn't get to see him play. So I'm reserving judgment on him. I know that he played a ton of games against inferior talent. And that has been the biggest knock on him, because I promise you, he would not have scored those points. Let's look at Damon Bailey. Damon Bailey was playing at the highest level.
Right?
He does not score those points playing at that level. He's not scoring those points playing against these teams. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just a fact.
I was told, it was a little before my time, but I was told, I don't know if it was by you or someone else, that he was kind of exposed in AAU too. That when he played at the AAU level, when he played summer ball, he had problems guarding people, and people saw that, coaches saw that, and that's why.
Well, he's a little undersized. But I'm not saying he could or couldn't, but I agree with what Van said, though. It will be interesting to see. That doesn't mean, though, that he can't grow. That doesn't mean that he can't put the weight on. He can't just increase his talents. He can't.
He could be a very good college.
2 years from now, he could be in the portal and Indiana pick him up. I don't know.
Especially, Mike Woodson, 4 out, 1 in, right? You could always use shooters. And I mean, if he's shooting over 40% from 3, I can guarantee you, if he puts up those numbers. But we saw a kid a couple of years ago, like Fletcher McGee was that kid that would be kind of like a comparison to me, like a guy that could, lead your team to an upset in the NCAA tournament at that small level by just being a scorer.
But I do know that they didn't have to worry about it this year because they've got the roster set. Some talk about that Miller Kopp is a great get, but they did need that, but they also needed another big. They were in I think they're a little, just a tick guard heavy, one too many, but because they certainly could have used another big there, but Miller Kopp is a great get, and that's a role that they need. They haven't had a shooter from that position. So we'll see if it works out okay with the bigs. They are a little thin there.
No question. Yeah, and Miller Kopp is averaging 3 rebounds per game. That kind of stood out as a 6'7" guy, but he does open up the floor. But
the freshman averaged more than that.
But you could say he's kind of similar to Jerome Hunter in that vein, like a 6'7" guy. And you have Jerome Hunter coming back, so it's kind of like you're getting a guy that's kind of similar to Jerome Hunter. And Jerome Hunter, I think Archie was hoping that Jerome Hunter would almost be that stretch 4 playing smaller, and Jerome had his moments, but it didn't quite work out that way. I think Miller's probably a better volume 3-point shooter than Jerome is. So he'll be an upgrade in that front court in terms of being able to stretch, and you'll have options with how you can play. But I do think with Trace and Race and Logan Duncombe, who we saw over the summer, physical guy, runs the floor really well, you will have that 3-player post rotation if Duncombe can come in and show that he can contribute right away.
And they're probably going to be running a little different, obviously, offensively, a little more guard heavy, a little more action, a little more movement. So it'll be interesting to see. It's just like to see him just a little deeper there. But hey, it's
again where the game is heading. I don't necessarily like it. I like teams that can get second chance points and hold teams to one shot, which is like I kind of like that. I've told you this before, but I kind of like that first team that I covered from Indiana, the 2019-20 team, because they had Justin Smith, across the front line with Brunk and Trace Jackson Davis. You had 3 guys capable of getting double doubles in the front court, and there's something to be said for that too.
David points out that Indiana may have 4 new starters next year. I
think Race will start. Don't you?
I was gonna say he's the one that I'm like, I don't know about that, but
Tennessee's gonna have to battle for his job though with Xavier Johnson. I think
I don't see him starting over Xavier Johnson. I mean, he's a scorer. Rob's not a scorer.
Dane Fife was talking a lot last week about we have to get Finney's groove back, and he has to be.
I think he's trying to get his confidence up.
He's trying to get his confidence up, but I mean, if you really want that defense head of the snake guy, you might play Finney over Xavier Johnson. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I
disagree.
And I'm not a big Finney guy. I'm not a big Finney guy. But if you want to prioritize defense at the front of the, and we'll see how Xavier Johnson works out. Remember, he has fouling issues.
Sean asked, the big question is IU done in the transfer portal? I understand we have no available scholarships, but at what point do you have to make a move on a bigger talent than currently on scholarships? Well, you can't unless you redshirt somebody.
Well, you can run a kid off. You can run a kid off too. That happens all the time.
Like I said, unless you redshirt somebody, you're not going to run a kid off. There's nobody on this roster.
That happens all the time.
There's nobody. But we're talking about this roster right now. That's not happening.
That happens all the time, Jim.
We've got to we're going to take a quick break here. And Kevin, thanks a lot. I got to jump off real quick, and we'll go to a break. Or let me introduce you to Benny. Benny, go ahead and jump on if you're on there. Benny, or Kevin Brockway with us right now. Benny is just moved up to now. He's the director of basketball operations for Indiana. Been spent the last 4 years recruiting director, correct?
Correct, yes.
Man, one job to another. We can't wait to talk about that. Kevin, say hi to Benny. Here, I've got to get Bob Kravitz on here in a second.
Kevin, what's going on, man? How are you? I appreciate that. Really excited here for the new opportunity with the new staff. So,
oh man, we've just been talking about all the craziness with the recruiting and all that. But let's jump off and take a quick break, and we'll be back with Benny Sander and Bob Kravitz to join us as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new... All right, Kevin, I got to get Kravitz on, and I'm losing a spot. So I got to clear you, and then I'll get you back. Is that all right?
That sounds good, yeah.
All right, thank you. And let Bob know he can come on.
This can't be like the Brady Bunch where you have, or Hollywood Squares where you have a bunch of...
Yeah, normally we could, but...
You're running out of bandwidth. I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right, the snow stopped again in Bloomington.
How about that? April 20th.
It's crazy. Well, it was snowing. I was in Denver over the weekend. It was snowing there, so the snow is just following me. Benny, I'm fairly new, but I've only been here 2 years. How long have you been with IU for?
This is going into my 5th season.
Oh, good, good.
So I came over with Coach Miller's staff.
I'm going to dump you here in just a sec.
Awesome.
I'll shoot Bob a message real quick.
I just did.
Oh, okay, cool.
I didn't want to have you on there with too many people there, Benny.
I appreciate that.
He's was co-hosting for me, but he's also a reporter. And I'm like, I'm not doing. I'm not trying to throw you to the wolves there. I was not planned, and he was not normally on today. And I'm like, oh crap! So I'm doing all the juggling.
All is good over here. So,
how's that? So you originally came in from Dayton?
I did, yes. So
where were you from before that? Where you from?
I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio originally. I did my undergrad at the University of Arizona. So I worked for Sean Miller. Oh, there you go. Big diehard Reds fan over here, man.
Yeah, man. I know it's JD. I keep forgetting who's JD's team.
JD's a Braves fan.
Braves, that's odd.
Yeah, so we talk. Me and him talk a lot of baseball over here.
Well, I know him and Zach. Zach's a big Braves guy. Why is he a Braves guy? What's his Braves connection?
He told it something like they were the only team on TV that he could watch or something of that nature.
Oh, Ted Turner.
Yeah, exactly. So
back in third.
Yeah, when
Destination French Lick, West Baden, Indiana. You'll find great places to visit, to stay, to dine, and to play. We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
You hear me?
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. Joined by, of course, by Bob Kravitz and special guest Benny Sander, new director of basketball operations for Indiana basketball. Bob Kravitz, welcome in. Meet Benny Sander.
Benny, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Benny has spent the past 4 seasons as the head of recruiting for Indiana. That's probably nonstop of just staring at film and dark rooms and all that. The old days. Was that what it's like doing that job?
That's pretty accurate. Watching a lot of game tape, highlight films, just trying to get as many names in front of our staff as possible.
And finding those guys. I mean, people throwing names after you, having to search names, databases. Man, can you imagine guys that had to do this back in when me and Kravitz were getting out of college and had to use crayons and pencils and stuff to write that stuff down?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I didn't have some of the technology that's available to us now, I'd stand no chance. But we have a team of people. Brian Walsh on our staff does a great job of helping with some of the underclass recruiting, kind of get those names up and running with our assistants. So it's a team approach over here.
And Bob, the recruiting course is the lifeline of what these guys do, but it's changed so much over the years. The staff in Indiana has right now, it's a corporation, and it has just changed so much.
Yeah, it has. I mean, and it's changed in the last year, and you could speak to this, but with COVID, you can't go out and really eyeball kids. You can't have those conversations that maybe you had in the past. And so I would assume that this year has been unique among the years you've done it.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, like you just said, you're missing that evaluation component of it, seeing them in person. You're relying on people that you trust, that have seen them live, maybe a coach or someone who's been able to access the gyms. And then you're trusting your eye when you're watching film and hoping that what you see on tape is going to translate to what we're trying to do here.
And now we've been talking about all morning, actually, the portal, how that has changed recruiting, the seniors. We got COVID and the transfer rule all at the same time. It would have been nicer if we could have spread that stuff out, but maybe it's better to get it all over at once, but it hit all at once. And that has obviously changed what you do and what everybody does immensely.
Yeah, I mean, no question. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the importance of just recruiting your own team and your own guys and making sure that, they feel loved and that they're a big part of what we're doing here. So that's the main thing. And then the other component is less about younger high school kids, because you can kind of fill your roster in with all these transfers. We've had a couple additions in that front, and it just kind of changes your approach as, not just from a year standpoint, but from a multiple year standpoint.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm excited about some of the kids coming in. Bates, Johnson. I was looking up the stats on Kopp. My God, he shoots 85% free throws. For a team that, 3-4 years has been in the 200s in free throws. I don't know how many times he gets to the line, but I'll take 85%. He's a 36% three-point shooter. He's a 39% three-point shooter back his sophomore year. So that can only help with him coming off the bench and being able to spread the floor a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone who watched us over the last couple of years, understands that we need to improve our shooting. Miller certainly addresses that. And any way that we can kind of stretch the floor and have better spacing for Trace to do his thing inside, I mean, that should benefit us, immensely.
And the experience he brings. I think he started like 74 out of 84 games in his career, which that is huge to come in and have that experience to come in, because you come into a new situation, you've got to blend in with the other teammates. Having all that experience is going to be welcomed by his teammates, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're able to play in this in the Big Ten Conference, you know what it's like day in and day out, and you can add someone to the fold like that. I mean, it's big time.
And there's no such thing as rebuilding with freshmen this year. I mean, with the portal open the way it is and everybody moving around, you can go from 12 and 15 to a 21 team pretty quick. I'm not saying that Indiana is going to do that. I'd like to see Bates play. I'd like to see Xavier. It bothers me a little bit that things ended badly in Pittsburgh, but I still don't know what the circumstances were. You would know better than me, but I'm really curious to see how these guys play and how they fit in.
Yeah, I think we got some interesting parts. I think when you tie in the returners that we have coming back and in some of these new additions, I think we have a couple different ways that we can play, a couple different lineups we can throw out there. But I think we have a good locker room, and there's 3 new guys that we're bringing in. I think they're good people, and great players, and so I think that will help kind of keep this thing trending in the right direction.
I'm going to assume because of your early in career, this is probably the first time you've been a part of a staff change. What's that like? How does that affect what you do? All that goes with that, because there's a lot of change for when you're in your position and you stay, and there's all the change that's going around you, navigating through all that.
No question. These last couple of weeks have been unique, to say the least. Feel for Coach Miller. Obviously, I think very highly of him and wish him luck at his next venture. But couldn't be more excited about the staff we have with Coach Woodson, Coach Mata, Coach Fife, Coach Kenya. You can see his value that he's adding here over the last couple of weeks. And then Coach Yasir, who I have a great vibe from here early on in his first week on campus. But it was just kind of one of those things where I was committed to Indiana and thought not only with the basketball program, but with the entire athletic department, we're trending in an upwards direction. And I was really excited to be a part of it. And when Coach Woodson got in and the opportunity presented itself, it was a no-brainer for me to stay on.
You used that we word, Bob.
He did use the we word, but he gets paid by them. So allowed to use the we word. I am not paid by them. So no check, no we.
I hear that. Go ahead, man. Oh,
yeah,
ahead,
no,
Bob.
but it just go ahead, Bob.
Or
no, please do.
But just in terms of the transition, it's kind of like what I said about recruiting our guys, just making sure that they've been good and making sure that they understand what the new staff's message is, and just making sure that everyone's hitting the ground running and having a great spring so we can kind of have some great momentum as we head into the summer.
Benny, let me ask you a question. What exactly is Thad Mata going to do? I know that he's going to be very valuable in whatever area he's used in, but what will his title is? It doesn't make it very clear. What exactly is he going to be doing?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of working through exactly how that's going to play out. I think more than anything, he brings unbelievable experience to the table with his successful tenure at Ohio State. Coach Woodson not having any college experience, I think just being a sounding board and running things by him, helping him navigate some of the waters that is the NCAA and recruiting and X, Y, and Z. I think Coach Mata is just invaluable around here. He's tremendous.
what's it been like for you to be around Dane Fife?
Coach Fife is unbelievable as well. He's a unique personality. He definitely likes to mix it up around the office, but I certainly appreciate that and like it. And you can tell that Coach Fife is an analyzer. He's kind of breaking down every component and every different angle, and it's been really interesting to see kind of how he operates.
He's already analyzing the media, so I got to thank him for that.
He's not wasting a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, what you guys been too negative. Well, you haven't done anything in the last 4 or 5 years, for crying out loud. I'll have to text him about that.
No, he's good. I think he's excited about being back home, and just between all of our assistants, the three of those guys, they work tremendous together, and I think we got an all-star squad over here.
And speaking of all-star squads, Mike, the head of the Snakes, so to speak, Mike Woodson. What's it been like being around him? He's a guy that comes in. He has got a ton of NBA experience. He's an Indiana icon. Just nothing but big words for a big man.
Right. First word's passion. I mean, he is so passionate about this program. You could tell, like, deep down, he cares about this place and cares about the people that are associated with this place. And then just the times that we talk shop on basketball and go to the whiteboard and he kind of breaks it down. It's like, that's 34 years of NBA experience knowing the game of basketball. It's some next level conversations we're having. And, I think he's tried to want to translate that to the floor and talk to the guys. And we're trying to, like, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Like, hey, maybe we install some of this stuff over the summer and not the spring. But he's just eager to get with the guys and kind of implement his system. And I've been blown away by his knowledge.
Well, what impresses me about him is, I'm 61. We went to school together. I'm 61, and I'm thinking, boy, I just want to play golf. He's 63, and he's taking on this job, which is a 24/7, 365 job. And, he's all gung ho. I mean, if you find your passion at a certain stage of life, then you pursue it. And I'm very impressed that Mike wanted this job. He could have very easily got on a boat or a golf course or done whatever he does and sort of run out the string a little bit. But he decided he wanted to take on this challenge. I think that's very noble.
Yeah, I think he's caught his second wind a little bit. And, on Sunday night, we kind of caught wind of one of the recruits coming our way, and we had a staff Zoom on Sunday at like 10 p.m. So there's no slowing him down. Obviously, I think we all saw some of the national media and what they thought of the hire. And my man, he knows how to recruit, and he's busting his tail for this program. And, we're all really excited.
Speaking of recruiting, they've already moving to the future. Several offers out there, and you got CJ Gunn in the fold already. But I've seen offers continue to go out. You guys are recruiting for the future already. What's that look like? I know you can't speak of players specifically, but just in that genre.
Yeah, I think we're casting a wide net. I think obviously when you're at Indiana, you want to recruit the state and you want to try to get the best players in the state. But at the same time, we're a national brand and we want to recruit across the country. And, we're going to utilize kind of those bread baskets that are popular amongst our assistants. And we're just trying to bring the best players in Indiana as possible.
Bob?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to recruit Indiana well. And I know that Archie had that inside out mentality. And I think you almost have to. I mean, when you've got the riches in basketball talent that we have here in Indiana, it would be a mistake not to take full advantage of that. But you're right. Indiana is a national brand. You look at great players. They've come from all over the place, whether it's Chicago or the Deep South or wherever. So, I do think you need to cast that wide net and not limit yourself to Indiana, certainly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And like you said, though, if you do a good job in this state, you're putting together a pretty good team, and we're just trying to grab some of those pieces maybe outside of the state that could kind of be fillers that get us over the hump, if you will.
What's next for you, Benny? What do you have to do over this summer? I mean, obviously the recruiting goes on, but the summers are, a lot of people think of vacation and all that stuff, and that's quite the opposite for those in this business, because the AAUs are about to get kicked off after not having that for a year.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of kind of planning our 8-week summer schedule with our team and how we're going to approach that on the floor and in the weight room, with workouts and practices and whatnot. And then, like you said, after a year off, getting up and rolling with some of these AAU tournaments and these scholastic events that we have in June, just getting organized and trying to game plan our approach for the next couple of months.
Rob?
Well, you're asking me what I'm doing?
No. I was going to say just another question for Benny.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, with the 13 guys, are you still actively recruiting? You're recruiting for next season and the seasons beyond, correct? You're done for this season?
Yeah, I think recruiting never stops, and I think you're always evaluating. I think we have 13 guys that we really like, and we're excited about. With how the landscape's changed, obviously that could change in a day. In a week, there could be someone that wants to go elsewhere, or there's just different opportunities that pop up. So I think you're always recruiting for your current team, but at the same time, we kind of have our eyes on the future at this point.
Right.
Well, Benny, I cannot thank you enough for taking time to join us. I know you're busy, probably got to shovel the snow off the driveway this morning, though, unfortunately. But cannot thank you enough for taking time out to join us. I know it's been busy and exciting time for you and exciting for everybody there. But please thank JD for us and everybody there.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this. And like I said, really, really excited about this new staff. And I think our direction that we're trending is a good one. So.
Well, thanks, buddy. And I look forward to meeting you. And we look forward to meeting you face to face for real, like the old days.
Yeah. Look forward to that as well. If you're ever in Bloomington, reach out and we'll go out and grab something to eat or something.
I'm in Bloomington right now, actually. So
there we go.
All right, you guys have a great day, Benny. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care.
Hey, we'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat. Bob Kravitz is with us, and we'll be back after this break from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new... Hello, Bob.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I thought you'd want to get in on that.
Yeah, sure. Anything?
It's not what, probably is good for you.
Typically, am I 9:20 or 10 o'clock? What's the going?
10 o'clock. It doesn't matter because I think we moved you because you had some moves, and then I think maybe in my head I was probably thinking that.
Oh, I'm easy whenever you want.
Plus, the 10 o'clock is like I just think of that whole half hour. I'm like, God, he can have that whole half hour.
Whatever.
But we can always move it if you need to.
Okay, sounds good. We'll think 10, and then we'll move it as need be. I played the worst golf of my life this week. I did not hit the ball squarely to save my life.
I played 17 yesterday with JC Hulls, and I started out good, but then I'm like, I should not have played more than 9. Kevin Brockway.
Hello, gentlemen. Hey, Bob.
Meet
Hey,
Bob
man, how
Kravitz.
you doing?
Hartford Whalers cap. It's not the Quebec Nordiques today.
No, I wore Quebec Nordiques when I was flying back from Tampa yesterday. So you can't go Quebec 2 days in a row.
Man, I had no idea what that was. I was sitting there trying to think.
Tell me this is the greatest.
Oh, the Whalers. Now I see it. Damn.
It's great.
Wow. That is an awesome logo.
I love old hockey hats.
That's a great logo, though.
It's world class. It's like the Milwaukee Brewers.
The one I hated was the Montreal Expos. I never understood theirs.
Yeah.
But I guess it was a glove or something. I don't know. It was dumb.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
You don't remember the mascot? Yuppie, the mascot, too, that they had?
Oh, that Expos mascot? That
goofy mascot they had. Yeah, Yuppie.
Yeah. I did not remember his name.
Yeah, I remember Yuppie.
Jim,
I was a
how did
Reds
you
fan.
go with Benny Sandler? Good?
Oh yeah, it was just fine.
Good.
He got promoted, and what's his name got demoted. The guy that was doing his job before.
Back in 30.
Welsh.
This together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday, brought to you by Anymore Honda. Bob Kravitz and Kevin Brockway has rejoined us. Gentlemen, how are you?
Tremendous.
Man, it's not supposed to snow in late April, Bob.
Dude, I was just in Tampa playing golf, and we got in, and the pilot says, "Yeah, we got a little snow and about 40 degrees." Like, turn this damn plane around. What is going on?
It's like 32 degrees last night. I was coming home. I could not believe it. It seemed like it dropped 40 degrees in a matter of hours, but Indiana weather. Right on. But we're talking about all-star basketball stuff, and I'm like, it's not supposed to be snowing, but the all-star team came out for Indiana, the Mr. Basketball. Kyle Neddenriep was on with us earlier, and I was talking about I'm pretty confident. I think Trey Kaufman would have won Mr. Basketball if he were going to Indiana. I don't know that for sure, of course, but I think that, man, that sure seemed to have a play in it. I don't know.
Go ahead, Kevin, because I don't know much about these guys. I know First and Kaufman. Go right.
Well, one thing I could say about Trey Kaufman, when we watched him over the summer, he was really on the come. But I guess, like Kyle alluded to, Jim, he kind of had an off senior year. He wasn't quite as dominant. When I saw him over the summer and his wing skills for a guy that's 6'8", I mean, I think he will. I think he'll fit in pretty well in Matt Painter's system if he comes in with the right attitude. But I think with Purdue, when you look at their team, they have a lot coming back too. So it'll be hard to break in.
Purdue's going to be dynamite next year. If they're not a top 3, top 4 team, I mean, a lot depends on what happens this summer, but if they're not a top 3, top 4 team in the Big Ten, I'll be surprised. I think that those freshmen and then the freshmen coming in are going to be really, really good. And that guy can coach.
Yeah.
You're talking about size. How much freaking size is Purdue going to have next year?
Oh, I know.
I just started thinking about, I mean, they got like 5 guys that are 6'9" or bigger, don't they?
They do. Now, I mean, when you get to the NCAA tournament, it's a guard game. Yeah, and we saw that with them losing to the mean
Texas Southern. Yeah.
Whatever the hell they were. North.
Yeah. I call them Texas Southern, Texas Northern, whatever.
Not what it needed to be. I mean, Jaden played well, but you know, I still think they need to upgrade at guard. You know, in the backcourt, various spots, but up front, they're going to be big. They're going to be nasty. They're going to be physical.
Well, you know, Hunter's a really good defender, but the issue with Sasha, he gets exposed sometimes. He really got exposed in that game. If you remember, they had to bench him.
Yeah.
But you need guards that can stay in front of people. I think that's kind of the key on the defensive end, and that really hurt Purdue in that game. I mean, that North Texas team was just really quick and you know, made shots too, which really put Purdue's defense in a bind.
And that's the thing. You've got to find a balance even in the Big Ten. When you're competing in the Big Ten, you've got to compete against the teams that you're going to be playing against, which it's a different style, as Bob mentioned. It's not so much guard play. It's a bigger league. But what is your goal? Your goal ultimately is to play on the national stage. So you got to find that balance that competes in the league, but still what prepares you for the tournament. And I guess whatever team is able to do that best is looking for the most success at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I just think, you know, they've got to upgrade the backcourt. I just don't. And Kevin mentioned it. You know, Stefanovic. I had a bunch of people saying, "Well, Stefanovic hit a shot early. Why didn't he play?" No, he couldn't guard the kid. He just could not guard. He was completely lost. And you know, Matt Painter, to his great credit, does not have a lot of patience with guys who can't keep their guy in front of them.
Indiana is making the moves that they've made. Bob, I think that this team will undoubtedly be able to compete in the upper half of the Big Ten. How much further above that? Well, we'll have to wait to see how this team plays out. That's anything above that is just a guess. But I definitely think that the upgrades with the coaching and the talent, that there's no excuse for them not to be in the upper half. They probably should have been at the bottom of the upper half last year.
Yeah, I thought that they were a mid-level team last year, and they underachieved yet again, which is why Archie Miller is no longer here. I have not seen Tamar Bates. I have not seen Xavier Johnson. Kopp, I've seen a little bit, but you know, we don't know. I mean, I keep hearing Logan Duncombe, but you know, Parker Stewart, but we haven't really seen much of these players. And let's see what they look like. I mean, everybody looks good on paper, but you know, I'm not sure. I mean, on paper, yes, they should compete for the top half of the Big Ten. But you know, I'm not ready to put any money on it. Let's put it
Here's the other thing, and I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. But if you take a look at the whole Big Ten, after it being a meat grinder 2 years, I think the whole league is not going to be as good next year when you take a look at what was lost in Luka Garza, Dosunmu. I don't know if Coburn has decided yet if he's going to go, but I think that there's an opportunity to move up because the league might not be as competitive as it's been the last 2 years in terms of you look at the players that have been lost around the league and the talent level. I mean, we talked about Purdue. Purdue's going to be loaded, and I know Michigan is going to be pretty tough. They're bringing in a really good class. But I think Aaron Henry leaving Michigan State and Rocket Watts, I mean, where's Michigan State going to be next year? I think there's just a lot of question marks around the league, and I think that could give, with Trey Jackson James coming back at Indiana, that could give an opportunity for Indiana to move up just based on that.
I'm so curious to see what Trace does next year. Let's see if he takes those shots that Woodson wants him to take. Let's see if he can make those shots. Let's see if he can develop a right hand. I mean, if I'm him, I'm in the gym 24/7 working on my game because I know that I have some pro ability. And this is the year I've got to show it. And I give him great credit for deciding to stay. 99 times out of 100, I'm like, take the money, man. Take the money, get professional coaching, go up against adults. But I think this is that 1 in 100 where he really would benefit. His stock will rise if he plays well. I think this is one of those few times where sticking around is the right move.
Absolutely, and I think that he's going to find a new invigoration with this staff because they are invested in him and in his future and making him better. And I think he will feel that. And for whatever reason that he hadn't gotten there before, I really think we're going to see a very different Trace Jackson Davis next year. I really do. I think you're going to see a tired. Mike Woodson wants to win now. Everybody wants to win now. I know that. But I mean, he wants to. I think that there's probably something in the back of his mind with the people that question his ability to do this job. It pissed him off, and he wants to win right now. And I'm not saying he's going to go out and win a Big Ten championship, but he wants to win now.
Yeah. And he should. I mean, look, we don't know. I mean, I know he's got a 6-year deal, but Dane is in the weeds there waiting. And if he doesn't have a ton of success, that's something they're gonna look at, sooner rather than later. But I think he's going to be fine. I had some questions. I still do. I mean, I want to see them play. I want to see him, get on the recruiting trail in a normal year and pick up some of these bodies. But I'm more wait and see. I'm not as bullish as some other people, but we'll find out. But he's certainly off to a very good start. I'll say that.
Absolutely, and that's just creating the excitement around the program that had such a cloud around it, but more so for these players. As someone commented earlier, are they having fun? I'm sure they are, but that's just a guess. I'm not in that gym. I'm not in Cook Hall, but I bet it is. I can only imagine it is a much more. I know it is. Dane Fife's there, so I can say it's a much more fun atmosphere. Yeah. So yes, I guarantee you they're having fun. Dane Fife makes sure you have fun, and that's part of everything. It's hard to do anything in life if it's not enjoyable.
Yeah, like my golf game? Is that what we're talking about? I'm sorry. No, I bet you I mean, you've got to think that with all these new bodies that the compete level has gone up, that guys are going to be more accountable than they were. I mean, the thing that drove me crazy with Archie is guys would not get things done on the floor, and he kept them on the floor. He never held them responsible or accountable. Now, maybe that's because he had no faith in his bench people, which is entirely possible. But, when Rob Finney is consistently not playing with any kind of edge, I'm pulling him. I am pulling Rob Finney and putting in somebody else. But apparently that wasn't an option with Archie.
Well, that's, I think where the depth comes in, Bob, and the fact that you have all 13 scholarships was filled. And Jim was harping on this point, for years about him not having all 13 scholarships. Now you have the depth. You've got 3 guys at point guard now. You've got Xavier Johnson. You've got Finney. You've got Christian Lander, where if one guy's not performing, you can plug the other guy in.
Yeah. Now I think Lander is on the cusp. I realize he had an absolutely atrocious year, but his freshman year, which it should have been his senior year in high school, but give that kid a year or two to develop his body and develop his game. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, despite what we saw early.
Especially with the coaches he's got behind him now, because he's got a wealth of experience in different manners, whether it's the NBA, whether it's Dane Fife with the college game. He's just got a group around him that he needs to do exactly what you just said, Bob.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right.
What's come up next for you, Bob?
Well, I just got back from vacation, so I'm licking my wounds mostly. I got a thing. I talked with Bo Borowski. He kept a referee. Yeah, he kept a diary during the NCAA tournament. Of course, he did the championship game. So I'm going to do something with that. And I'm going to do something on the Pacers. And at this point, does making the playoffs really matter? I think at this point, I'm not saying tank, but if they happen to miss the playoffs, it would be the best thing that could possibly happen because, this is kind of a lost season. We don't know when Miles Turner's coming back. We know a lot of, TJ Warren isn't coming back. They're going to get swept out in the playoffs again. I'd rather they have a chance at their first single-digit draft choice since George McLeod in the year 3. So, I think that's the way to go for the Pacers.
Hey, Bob, do you find what Nate McMillan is doing in Atlanta interesting?
I find it fascinating. Because I did not understand that firing. All these guys, they complained he was too tough. He didn't really understand them. Well, now you've got Mr. Nice Guy, and they're not responding. Now, part of that is they've obviously had just a ton of injuries. I don't think Sabonis is playing tonight. No Miles Turner. No Warren. God knows who else isn't going to play. Darnell Hillman's not going to play. Look, I give Bjorkgren a bit of a mulligan, but I'm telling you that that guy McMillan can coach. He can coach.
I agree.
He's certainly proving it. Kevin, thanks a lot, brother. Hope you go out and have a great day. Bob, I hope you have fun as well.
Thank you, sir.
Go out and play some golf.
Yeah, it can't get any worse. Maybe I'm good in the snow.
Oh, man. Everyone else, go out and have a great day. Big thanks to JD and Benny Sander from Indiana for coming on with us as well. And we'll be back tomorrow to do it again. Dustin Schutte, Chris Denari, Matt Taylor. We'll see what else we can get going. But until then, stay warm, man. And get your shots, wear your mask, do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.